So I want to let people know he was born in 1887 in St. Ann's Bay, Jamaica. It's a little small place in Jamaica, and his father was a very serious man. Put him through a lot of tests as a young boy. One of the tests I read about that his father put him through when he was a young boy, and he was in a very safe environment. But the idea was that he never wanted his son to be afraid of anything in life, and so he dug a ditch, and he put Brother Garvey in the ditch, and he left him out there overnight. Now I know some of the women are like, "Oh my God, I can't believe." Oh yeah. But I want people to understand. Sometimes men do things with an understanding of what it's going to produce that other people may not understand. And what his father knew is that his son was going to be great one day. But if he was going to be great, he couldn't have any fear in his heart. Because if he had fear in his heart, then he would lose. So his mother had always taught him, very much like Nat Turner's mother had taught him, that he was going to be a great person one day. And she was discouraging him from doing the same type of menial labor that everybody in St. Ann's Bay was forced to do, basically working for the white interest companies. And so she always convinced him to read a lot, to learn a lot, and she always told him that he would be great. In fact, his middle name was Messiah, because she said he was like going to be a Moses, a messenger for his people, and a savior for his people. And he grew up believing that. And so anyway, his father put him in a ditch and then came back out, and he said he was really scared, and he was in there overnight. And when he came back the next morning, when his father came out to get him, got him out there, and he said, "Son, you know why I did this?" And the son said, "No." He said, "Because you can never be afraid." And Marcus Garvey said he never forgot that lesson. He never had to go through that type of lesson again, but obviously his father saw something in him that was great, but also saw something that would to destroy him if he didn't correct it. And so his father put him through a trial, a very serious one that really didn't have any ramifications because his father was watching the whole time, would not let anything happen to his son. So he was making sure that nothing happened to him. But of course, Brother Garvey didn't know that. And that's the kind of thing that's the kind of background he came from a father who was very well known in the community, very well respected, very serious man. And many people say that he wasn't a man who smiled a lot. He was serious, and so his son would grow up, take printing on in England as a trade, and eventually he was looking for something greater. He began to go back to Jamaica and organize the workers so that they can get better wages and they can have unions and things of that nature. And so he would come back and forth to the United States. He was coming to the United States because he wanted to get some support from the brothers and sisters in the United States to support the movement he had started in Jamaica. Well, eventually, he read the book by Booker T. Washington, Up From Slavery. And when he read the book Up From Slavery, he was so impressed with this book, Up From Slavery, that he came to America to beat Booker T. Washington. But unfortunately, Booker T. Washington had died like a year before once he got here. So, and this is just a general, so you can do the research for yourself to get the dates and the names and the times. But essentially, he had started his Universal Negro Improvement Association, kind of got it off the ground in Jamaica, but it hadn't really blossomed. And when he came to America, he had gone to a very interesting story, body shots. Matter of fact, you can tell this story when he went to the NAACP because he was trying to, since Booker T. Washington wasn't here and wasn't alive, he was trying to join a black self-help organization to help him do some things and so he could join and help the black person around the world. Could you tell us what happened in that situation?
Right. As Marcus Garvey did his work throughout the West Indies in Panama, Grenada, Costa Rica, he was an accomplished publisher, and he had his own newspaper called I think it was the Nationally Owned. But in this paper, everywhere he went, he always recommended as a reading that people would read W.E.B. Du Bois. So he had originally a healthy respect for W.E.B. Du Bois. And after many failed attempts to get into the country, Booker T had passed. And so he made his way to the NAACP office to speak with W.E.B. Du Bois. As he enters the office, he doesn't see any black people in the so-called uh, National Association of African Colored People, only W.E.B. Du Bois. And so it's at this point that he really started to rethink this whole thing called the NAACP. And he said that it was his original intention just to come here, get support, and go back to Jamaica. But in his initial 5 minutes of talking to W.E.B. Du Bois, who had postured himself to be the head black leader in America, he said the first 5 minutes of talking with him, he said, I had decided that I would stay in America and show W.E.B. Du Bois what it meant to be race first.
Mm. So that means there was something, first of all, of course, you know, Brother Garvey being a dark-skinned black man at a time when being dark-skinned was looked at even worse than it is looked at today, unfortunately. To be bold, to be dark-skinned, a large man of stature, to go into a situation where he was faced with people who, quite frankly, had a white supremacist mentality and wanted to start a caste system in the United States similar to what they have in Haiti or in other places around the world, where basically it was a light-skinned, educated, well, European-educated buffer class that wanted to be elite and to run the black community and essentially just keep black people calm, and they could be the voice for black community. No real effort or desire to engage the brothers and sisters. If you're a farmer, if you're a sharecropper, you could not become part of the NAACP. And Marcus Garvey's ideas, of course, being a black man who came from Jamaica and has gone around some parts of the world and is genuinely a black person with love for African people, and he knows and sees himself as an African, he wants to see all black people as a race uprise. He doesn't want to see one class, one complexion, any of that kind of stuff. So, you know, when he got there and saw that that was what he was dealing with, he actually said when he got to the NAACP office, everybody was either white, so light that you thought they were white, or it was W.B. Du Bois. So meaning he looked around, he didn't see anybody that looked like him, and he said the way they were looking at him, they didn't want him there because part of the reason because he was too dark-skinned. And he wasn't educated through the European system. He didn't have his doctorate or he didn't have his master. You know, he didn't go through getting approved by the Europeans. And so it really tells you something about his character because it takes a lot for a man to see a situation like that. You would think that he could say, you know what, I'm leaving here because I don't like the kind of people here that I'm dealing with. But what he saw was something different. He said, wow, they don't have genuine, committed racial leadership here in America. They have something other than that. Well, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to create something so that the people in America that have all these means and access to resources and knowledge and know-how can take that, and then every black person, from the sharecropper to the educated black person to the business owner to the person with no job and no skills, we can all work together and have value to the good of our race. And that was something that was largely missing in this country, and that's what Garvey set out to do. So in a few short years, Marcus Mosiah Garvey, he started what we call the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, here in America. Matter of fact, it was July 2nd, 1918, that he started the office in New York. So in New York City, he opened a chapter July 2nd, 1918. By 1919, he had hundreds of thousands of followers. He was on his way by 1920. He had a newspaper, the Negro World, that had between 50,000 and 200,000 circulation. How many people were reading it? And they were reading it around the world. Before the actual collapse of the organization, before it was dragged down, he was deported in 1927. They actually were in over 22 countries around the world with, just to give you an example of the type of organizational skills our brother had. I'm just going to read down a list to give you an idea of what he was able to do by 1926. So he opens his first chapter of the UNIA in the United States of America, and that's in July 2nd, 1918. By 1926, I'm going to read this to you, brothers and sisters, just to show you how incredible the brother Marcus Mosiah Garvey was in terms of his organization skills. I'm going to read you the state and read you the number of UNIA chapters in that state in 1926. In 1918, he got one chapter, New York. 1926, which is 7 years later, Louisiana, 74 chapters. Virginia, 48 chapters. North Carolina, 47 chapters. Pennsylvania, 45 chapters. West Virginia, 44 chapters. Mississippi, 44 chapters. Ohio, 39 chapters. Arkansas, 38 chapters. Florida, 32 chapters. New Jersey, 31 chapters. Oklahoma, 28 chapters. Georgia, 26 chapters. South Carolina, 24 chapters. Illinois, 23 chapters. Missouri, 21 chapters. California, 16 chapters. New York, 16 chapters. Michigan, 14 chapters. Indiana, 13 chapters. And of course, we have other states, but I think that rundown really can make an impression on people of just the magnitude and scope of the organization, the UNIA, the Universal Negro Improvement Association. And if you want to get verification and learn more about Marcus Garvey, my personal suggestion is the best book, not the best, one of the best books, and my favorite book about the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey is the book Race First by Tony Martin, who I would say is the foremost scholar on Marcus Mosiah Garvey in the world. You really want to check this book out. It's phenomenal, and it just shows you how incredible. It says there were throughout the life of it, it was over 725 UNIA chapters in the United States. But now, here's where I'm really going to blow you away. That's the United States. But let's talk about worldwide. Are y'all ready, brothers and sisters? Cuba, 52 chapters of the UNIA. Panama, 47 chapters. Trinidad, 30 chapters. Costa Rica, 23 chapters. Canada, 15 chapters. Jamaica, 11 chapters. Spanish Honduras, 8 chapters. South Africa, 8 chapters. British Guyana, 7 chapters. Colombia, 6 chapters. Dominican Republic, 5 chapters. Guatemala, 5 chapters. Nicaragua, 5 chapters. Barbados, 4 chapters. British Honduras, 4 chapters. Mexico, 4 chapters. Sierra Leone, West Africa, 3 chapters. England, 2 chapters. The Gold Coast, which is Ghana now, 2 chapters. Liberia, 2 chapters. The Bahamas, 2 chapters. Panama, 2 chapters. And Southwest Africa, 2 chapters. And Wales, we talking about Europe. Wales, brothers and sisters, 1 chapter. And we got a bunch of other places like Haiti and Dominica, Bermuda, St. Thomas, Venezuela that had 1 chapter as well. So we're talking about a movement, an organization that spread throughout the world in less than 10 years in building. I'm going to play a little clip just as we continue this discussion about this beautiful brother, Marcus Mosiah Garvey. But I wanted to ask Brother Body Shots if you have any comments at this time.
No, I mean you hitting right on. But for anybody that thinks I don't want them to get the wrong impression or sell themselves short. When you were naming the divisions, 1 in Wales and the 70 that were in Louisiana, I believe Louisiana was the biggest as far as the number of divisions. It wasn't like you could open up a division with 10 or 12 strong members. You cannot get a charter from headquarters to open up a division unless you had at least 500 members.
Say that again, brother.
You could not get a charter to start a new division of the UNIA ACL unless you had at least 500 registered members.
Say that one more time, real slow, so that our listening audience can actually absorb what you just said. Now let me say it again. Remember, we went through the list, and just as an example, there were 74 chapters in Louisiana. But tell us of the UNIA, Universal Negro Improvement Association, Marcus Garvey's organization. But tell us again, in order to get one of those 74, what each one of them had to have?
You had to have at least 500 registered members in order to get a charter to open up a new division.